right, I'm Chris Avina with another episode of the American Outdoor News Podcast. I'm here with Mike Jean from the Sportsmen's Alliance. Mike, thanks for taking the time to speak to us. We got a lot to go over.
Well, thank you for having me, and you got a great little setup here overlooking the convention floor, so you must know somebody to get this good seats here.
Yeah, I know people that people don't know. So, you handle all the litigation for the Sportsmen's Alliance. Well, first, let's take a step back. Tell us exactly what the Sportsmen's Alliance does.
The Sportsmen's Alliance represents hunters, anglers, and trappers. We were formed in the 70s to fight a ballot initiative and have just been ongoing ever since. And a couple of years ago, they decided they wanted to launch an in-house litigation team to do some more of the legal front. They brought me in. We brought in another guy named Torrin Miller, who's an excellent young attorney. And we've hit the ground running and filed several lawsuits and have really been defending sportsmen in courts across the country over the last couple of years.
Well, let's face it. I mean, today, all rights as sportsmen, not just hunters, as sportsmen in general, has been under fire from people who are dead set against allowing us to live the life that we want to live.
I think that is 100% true, and I was just researching this for a presentation the other day, and I think sportsmen have a great conservation history, and I don't think they know it enough, and I don't think they discuss it enough, because if you go back to the 1870s, the wildlife in this country was diminishing. That's your classic tragedy of the commons problem, where you have a common resource, no one looks out for it, so they just deplete it. And then it was sportsmen who organized and came up with the North American model of conservation. And from the 1870s till about the 1930s, that's when we get apolitical game commissioners who aren't just serving as the governor's cronies, who are actually looking to protect wildlife. You get the Pittman-Robertson Act, where we fund conservation. All of this stuff was...
Mind you, the Pittman-Robertson was a self-imposed tax by sportsmen. It's not something that the government mandated. We said, take our money and put it directly towards the conservation.
That's absolutely right. And when you look at the other interests at the time, you had the agricultural interest, and, they were kind of, well, something's eating my crops, let's get rid of them. You had market hunters or commercial hunters, and once we had refrigerated rail cars, they were just going around killing everything, putting the meat in the cars, taking it to the cities, getting rid of it that way. Then you had, your more rural subsistence hunters who would just take what they needed to eat, and it was largely unregulated until sportsmen answered the call to protect the wildlife. So I just think that's a great story. We don't tell it enough, and we need to, especially when we have more organized opponents now who are trying to come in, especially in places like Washington State, and kind of upend everything that the sportsmen have done really from the 1870s on.
Well, you look at Colorado. They're trying to do away with hunting altogether. A state like Colorado that is known for their abundance of wildlife and the amazing hunting and the outdoor lifestyle, that pretty much paints a picture of what we do.
Yeah, Colorado, Oregon has a ballot initiative this year that will end all hunting and fishing. It will make it a crime to take any wildlife whatsoever. And this is what I mean when I say we have more organized opposition now than we ever had before. And what we did, there are forces now trying to undo it. And under their theory that all wildlife is a sentient being and do no harm to it. So that's really what we're up against, and that's why Sportsmen's Alliance exists, and I have a job.
Okay, so how do we litigate something like that? Do we create... do we help influence who's running on the next ballot to oppose this bill, or what do we do?
The legislative branch is always the first step. Traditionally, through Article 1 of the Constitution, there's a reason they started with the legislature, because they have the most power. And if you can block things in the legislature, you don't need to get to the other branches to litigate. So that is what I would say is your first step, and to that end, vote. Later on this year, the Sportsmen's Alliance should have what we call a bill tracker live on our website, where you can go in and see how your state representatives voted on different sportsmen's bills.
Okay.
So I know there's a lot of factors people consider when voting, but we just want to put that out there so our members and sportsmen can see.
Well, it's something that people need to weigh out when they vote. It's not just their political view, it's their lifestyle. How do they want to live their lifestyle? People in Oregon or Colorado rely on hunting to fill their freezers and feed their family. I know I like to hunt to fill my freezer and feed my family. Granted, I'm not pressed up against the wall where I need to rely solely on what I hunt, but there are people that are. So how do we deny them the right to feed their family?
You're preaching to the choir right here. And we've had in our policies that the wildlife belongs to the state on behalf of the people, and we preserve the wildlife so the people can enjoy it, and that includes hunting and harvesting the wildlife. It's been that way since the founding of the country. But times change, movements change, and now you have what I called, the animal rights or animal welfare. Animal welfare just means generally you treat the animals humanely. Mm-hmm. Animal rights means, they believe the animals have rights. Some go as far as to say they're legally people, and that's been litigated through several courts and lost across the country, thankfully. But this is where people are right now.
I think they've been watching the movie Ted too long. And, Ted did win his rights as a person, but, Ted Clubberlang is still a teddy bear.
He is. And so are Tommy the chimp, Happy the elephant, and all the other animals in these cases that have come up.
So you had mentioned earlier about wolves, the delisting of wolves and managing those numbers. For me, from what I've seen, and I've had some congressmen on to discuss this as well, wolves breed faster than most animals. Their packs grow at a rapid rate, where they infringe on the general public. Ranchers have to keep a closer eye on their livestock, and pets. Your cat goes missing. Where did it go? Well, the wolf took it, the big bad wolf. What are we doing to litigate delisting them so we can legally control their numbers through hunter conservation?
Well, what aren't we doing? If you would have told me when I got out of law school I would spend in my first 14 years of my career on wolves, I wouldn't have believed you. But that's how it happened. I started as an intern at Safari Club when I was still in law school, working on the wolf issue then. So right now, their numbers are recovered. There are probably 6,000 in the Western Great Lakes, which are connected to another 15,000 in central Canada, and there are another 4,000 out west, directly connected to another 15,000 in Western Canada up into Alaska. And those central Canadian and those Western Canadian wolves, they're connected up in northern Canada. So it's like one giant upside down boomerang where there's probably 50,000 wolves. They're all connected. They're fine. What we're doing is Sportsmen's Alliance, my client, filed a petition with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service to reissue the rule delisting wolves in the Western Great Lakes. The Obama administration did that a few years ago. That was struck down by courts. Problem we have is in the United States, we have a few pockets where the wolves, their numbers are doing extraordinarily well, but they have not expanded to their quote-unquote historical range. And we have a lot of judges and a lot of advocacy groups out there who are claiming that until the wolves are restored throughout their historic range, which would include Oklahoma and parts of Texas and parts of the Southeast, they are threatened with endangerment. And I don't think that's what the ESA stands for. The ESA was amended to allow delisting of unique populations that have recovered, but that's where we are right now. We're fighting this in the Ninth Circuit in 2 different cases. And as soon as they get delisted, someone can petition the Fish and Wildlife Service to relist them, and then they'll go find a friendly judge to challenge their petition and who will rule in their favor.
Well, I've had Congressman Tom Tiffany and Congresswoman Lauren Boebert on the show, who actually co-wrote the bill to delist them. And the fact is, the wolves that were introduced back into the U.S. are not even the species that were here originally. So how do they justify that?
Political maneuvering under the law. What I was told historically is everybody knew the wolves were going to come down into the western states eventually. So what would happen is you can let them come in naturally, and they will be an endangered species, and the states will have no authority whatsoever to regulate them. Or you can do something under Section 10J of the Endangered Species Act and reintroduce the species under a special rule that's completely different from the complete ban on take that an endangered species would otherwise have. So the leaders at the time in the western states realized we could either have them with their hands tied, or we could reintroduce them with a little bit of flexibility.
So they danced around the loophole.
Yeah, you dance with the devil, and that's what you get.
So here's what I see from doing something like that. There is a trickle-down effect in every phase of our life.
Yes.
You introduce a predator, an apex predator, that has not been here for decades. It's going to breed. They're going to eat. What do they eat? They eat deer. They eat elk. They eat squirrels, raccoons, whatever. Those numbers are now depleting because you reintroduced an apex predator that not only kills them for food, they kill for sport.
Yeah, and with these reintroduction deals, Colorado being the most recent, when they had their 10J rule, I'm told that they got a bit of a dirty deal because the wolves came from Oregon, and Oregon's wolves are still listed in parts of the state. But if I come to you and say, Chris, I need some of your wolves, you're not giving me your best ones. You're giving me the ones who
you want to get rid of.
Yeah, and you're like, oh, I got some for you. And how could it work out differently? If I asked for the best staff at some place, they're going to give me the people they can do without. Colorado got some wolves who are known to prey on livestock, and it just made the problem worse, reduced the social tolerance. But it can go no other way when you just consider normal, rational incentives and how people behave and how the wolves behave. If they're coming into a new space where, the cattle haven't seen wolves forever, the wildlife haven't seen wolves forever, of course they're going to get decimated.
Well, it's also not just the wolves. It's the coyote and coyote and fox in the area as well, because as an apex predator, you don't want another canine in the area, so they're going to wipe out coyote, they're going to wipe out foxes, and the cycle continues.
That is nature. It's a vicious cycle. And that's why we have wildlife management policies. But once the wolf is listed, those policies go out the window, and you cannot do anything to harm it. It's a completely hands-off approach, and the state's hands are tied when that happens. So that's why I think it's really critical, especially in the northern Rocky Mountains in the western states and the western Great Lakes states, where you have big populations. The management has to be turned over to the states so they can actually manage them. Just letting them roam, freely in areas where we now have populations, agricultural populations, human populations, it is not a great strategy.
So how does somebody get involved with the Sportsmen's Alliance?
You can go to our website. We have members. You can sign up for our alerts. That's basically it. We're a membership organization just like everybody else.
So it's sportsmansalliance.org?
Correct.
Okay. Go to sportsmansalliance.org. Get involved, because your voice matters, and every vote counts here to preserve what we live for.
Couldn't agree more.
So appreciate you taking the time to speak to us today. If you have not subscribed to the American Outdoor News Podcast, hit that subscribe button now. I want to thank Safari Club International, Underwood Ammo, and Hunt of a Lifetime for sponsoring this episode, and we'll see you again next week.
Thanks for having me.
We love our children. We protect them. We guide them. We prepare them for life in the world. With all that we do, from deep in our hearts, we cannot control all things. Life-threatening illnesses and disabilities affect far too many of our children each year. While we cannot change the circumstance, we can make dreams come true. Dreams to provide hope, to provide spiritual healing and strength, to provide moments of happiness and relief in the hardest of times. We can give a glimmer of light and hope in a time of darkness and despair. Join huntofalifetime.org to help make dreams come true, to provide hope for children with life-threatening illnesses and disabilities. Hunt of a Lifetime is a non-profit organization fulfilling dreams for hunting and fishing trips to youth 21 and under with life-threatening illnesses and disabilities. Visit huntofalifetime.org to learn how you can make a difference.